All right, welcome to lesson 3 on evaluating algebraic expressions. So the first thing we have to ask ourselves is, let's talk about what is an expression. An expression is just a number sentence that includes operations, numbers, and sometimes variables. So for what we're looking at today, they are going to include variables, and we're going to have to figure out how we can solve for the solution to those expressions using missing numbers. So what we first want to ask ourselves is, what does it mean to evaluate an expression? Okay, well, to evaluate an expression, it means to find the value of a numerical or algebraic meaning something that includes variables, expression. So all this means is that with algebraic expressions, when we evaluate them, we're finding a solution or a value for that expression. So the steps that we need to follow in order to evaluate is to substitute the given value for the variables into the expression in place of the variable. And then we're just going to simplify the expression using order of operations. So we're going to go ahead and try these practices. All right, so expressions can be evaluated by using tables. So we're first going to look at this expression, xy plus yz. Now it's important to break down this expression and understand that when we've got two variables next to each other, we're really multiplying those two variables together, which means we're going to have x times y plus y times z. This is a common misconception in math. A lot of times kids find what x is, which is 2, and y is 4, and they say that our first number is 24, but that's not true. It's really x times y, x is 2 and y is 8. So a lot of times kids say that our number here is 28, but really it's x times y, so it's going to be 2 times 8, which is 16. All right, so now that we've broke down what this expression exactly is asking us to do, we're just going to plug in the missing values. So we've got x is 2 times y, which is 8, plus y, which is 8, times z, which is 4. Now we're just going to use our order of operations to do multiplication first. 2 times 8 is 16. 8 times 4 is 32. We're going to add them together, and you should end up with a solution of 48. So our evaluation of this expression is 48. Now, if you feel like you've got this expression, go ahead and try the next set. The next set deals with different numbers. We've got decimals here as well as fractions. If you want to go through another example with me, just continue watching the video. So with this next set of numbers, we know that x is 5, z is 2.5, and y is 6. So if we plug this in, we've got x times y, so 5 times 6, plus y, which is 6, times z, which is 2.5. Again, following order of operations, we're going to do our multiplication first. 5 times 6 is 30, plus 6 times 2.5 should be 15. 30 plus 15 is then 45. All right, last example we're going to go over has fractions. So again, we're going to follow that same expression, but plug in our new numbers for our variables. So we have x times y, so 10 times 3/5, plus y times z, so 3/5 times 5. And we know when we're multiplying fractions, we need to have two fractions. We cannot multiply by a whole number. And then we just multiply the top. 10 times 3 is 30. 1 times 5 is 5. Plus 3 times 5 is 15. Over 5 times 1, which is 5, and now we're just adding fractions. Since we have a common denominator, we just add the numerators. 30 plus 15 is 45 over my denominator of 5. 45 divided by 5 then simplifies to 9. So 9 is my solution. All right, let's move on to the next one. With this next one, we've got 4x squared. Now again, since we have a number and a variable right next to each other and there's no operation in between them, it's like there's an invisible multiplication sign here. So really, if I was to break this down, I have 4 times x squared. Okay, so if I plug in my first value for x, which is 2, I can say that I've got 4 times 2 squared. Now following order of operations, I want to do the exponent first. 2 squared, or 2 to the second power, is 4. So now I've got 4 times 4, which is 16. The next one, x is going to be equal to 4. So here I'm going to have 4 times 4 squared. 4 squared is 16. And 4 times 16 should be 64. Last one, I'm going to have 4 times 8 squared. 8 squared is 64. 4 times 64 should be 256. All right, last set of example I'm going to go over. This one gets a little bit more complicated. We have the quantity, okay, which is how we say parentheses, of A times B squared. So remember, we want to do what's inside the parentheses first, and then we want to use that exponent to square it. And then that's going to be over, so divided by C times A. So if I was to write this one out, I'm going to write it down here on the bottom. It would look like this: A times B in parentheses and then squared over C times A. So let's go ahead and plug in what we know for the first one. A is 2, B is 1, and C is 4. So since A is 2, we're going to have 2 times B, which is 1, in parentheses and squared, over C, which is 4, times A, which is 2. So we can go ahead and simplify, doing parentheses first. 2 times 1 is 2, and then we've got an exponent of 2, over 4 times 2, which is 8. Now if I simplify that down, I end up getting 4 to the power of 2, which is 4 over 8, which simplifies to 1/2. Go ahead and try the next two on your own, and then come back to the video to check your answers when you're ready. So for this next one, you should have had 2 times 3 squared over 9 times 2. 2 times 3 is 6, so you've got 6 squared over 9 times 2 is 18. 6 squared is going to be 36, so now you've got 36 over 18. 36 divided by 18 should give you a solution of 2. And then the last one should be 5 times 2 squared over 5 times 5. 5 times 2 is going to be 10, so we've got 10 squared on top. And on bottom, 5 times 5 is 25. 10 squared is going to be 100, so now we've got 100 over 25. 100 divided by 25 should give you a solution of 4. All right, go ahead and see your teacher if you have got any questions. But if you don't have any questions, go ahead and move on to the practice that's on the back of your page.